Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I am Inshu Mishra. If you know me, hi again. If you don't know me, I'm a Salesforce technical architect and director at Billier. In this fast-paced and demanding world of technology, the mental health of professionals, especially men, often takes a backseat. So, we're here to chat and highlight the importance of addressing this critical issue and fostering a supportive environment within the tech community. For that, I have with me Priscilla and Ishan. Priscilla is a registered clinical counselor and skilled professional coach, helping clients address emotional and psychological issues to enhance current well being and establishing goals for personal and professional growth by fostering self awareness and inner strength. Clients appreciate her welcoming and judgmental approach and non-judgmental approach, finding it empowering and rejuvenating. Priscilla is known for her ability to guide individuals through life's challenges and help them thrive. Thanks, Priscilla, for joining us.
Thanks.
We have Ishan, a seasoned AWS solution architect, a MuleSoft mentor, and an expert MuleSoft and Boomi integration architect. He has a wealth of knowledge and a proven track record in these domains. He enjoys the challenge of creating a premium experience for customers by delivering innovative solutions through the best architecture patterns and principles. Welcome, Ishan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, without the further delay, we'll just start with our fireside chat. As we all know that we're here to talk about Movember and men's mental health in the tech space. So, my first question is for Priscilla. How would you describe the unique mental health challenges that men in tech industry, particularly at the senior level, may face?
Sure. I pondered this question a little bit, Inshu, and I think curiously, men in tech, like we're still gender balanced towards males in tech, and specifically in that leadership position as well, although notwithstanding we are making some changes there. And it made me think that really it's the gender expectations. It goes back to, that male dominance and the bravado and the needing to be very solution focused, goal oriented. And while that can drive, positive directions, good revenues and things in organizations, it can equally cause stigma in having the conversations when you do need to call on help. And seek that open, supportive environment. So I think that the challenge around bringing the emotional expression to work, being able to be a whole person and not always need to put on, that courage and brave face for men, is part of what that unique challenge is at the senior level.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. So for Ishan, can you share some personal experiences or observations regarding the impact of high pressure roles on mental well-being in the tech field, given you're already working in that space? So it'd be great to share some of your experiences.
Yeah. I have been working in the tech field for quite a long. So like I have a lot of experience now, but early in my career, I was working on a project which has very tight deadlines, and I was very new to the workforce. And I wanted to prove myself. I worked for extended hours and had close to no personal time. And I faced burnout, and what I felt that it started negatively impacting my productivity and my personal life. So yeah, that experience taught me a lot about setting personal boundaries and prioritizing self-care. And what I see in my present work environment is that sometimes people hesitate to take breaks or speak about stress of work, and they fear that it might reflect poorly and negatively on their work ethic. And I have seen, and I'm seeing few colleagues who neglect their health, and that leads to anxiety and stress. So I believe that a healthy work-life balance is the key. And yeah, it would always be good to create that boundary, and that would will start the proactive mental health management in high stress environments, which we have working on projects with clients. I think yeah, for maintaining a good work-life balance would be the key.
Yeah, that's great. So, how do you perceive the role of Movember in addressing and raising awareness about men's mental health? And what impact have you seen in your respective spheres? So, Ishan, would you like to go ahead since you're
Yeah, so I think Movember has been instrumental in starting conversations about men's mental health, especially in workplaces, especially in tech companies. And for example, at my current organization, we have established a peer support group, and it is inspired by Movember's initiative. And I think it has created a safe space for men to discuss the challenges, breaking down stigmas around vulnerability. And we have also planned few fun activities. For example, there is a sponsored run where a lot of people at my organization are participating. And we have a mustache growing contest as well. So top three would be given few perks and few tickets. So I'm also a part of. And I think these fun initiatives serve as an icebreaker, because initiating discussions or like on topics around stress and anxiety could be stressful. So I think these are some funny things we can do. And so far, we have raised around $4,200 for the Movember initiative this year. So last year it was $15,000. So we are trying to catch up to that. But yeah, this has been quite kind of fun for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So that's kind of a great initiative that the organizations are taking these days. But like, I wanted to ask Priscilla, like from your experience, is there anything else that you would like to add on to, like, how can organizations contribute to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health, especially in male-dominated industries like tech?
Yeah, I think that Movember is doing an excellent job in opening up conversations, and it started initially from a more of a physical perspective, and it's moved into the mental health space. And so anything that brings in, the fun, the community spirit, like what Ishan described with his organization, and the education that goes with it. So it's above and beyond, the technical competency education. We're really bringing that whole of person experience in, and having a whole month dedicated towards it, and differences as well, different mustaches and competitions and things like that. I think that really does help promote that open communication, which is really what's going to start to reduce that stigma around mental health and burnout, as Ishan was describing. It's very human. If we're overworked, we will need to look after ourselves, and we can't just keep on a go pace all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good insight about it. And for Ishan, like you shared about the amazing experience that you guys are having at your organization. So have you actually observed any changes in how mental health is perceived and discussed within the tech community? And what steps can be taken to foster a more supportive culture?
Yeah. So yeah, this is a good one. So I think there has been a gradual shift towards recognizing the importance of mental health. And uh, still we have a long way to go, but I think more tech companies here now, they have in-house counselors, and are encouraging healthy work-life balance and work from home. So that's flexibility. And I recall, like, not long before, we were working in a big project for a big bank here in Australia, and there was this colleague who was sharing his struggles during the work, like during one of the team meetings, about the work anxiety and about meeting the deadlines, and that has an impact, and that led to a project-wide policy change, and flexible work hours and schedules were introduced as a result. So I think that was some proactive behavior from the both internal as well as the client team. So I think open dialogues like this about mental health should be encouraged more, and more regular mental health check-ins should be welcomed. And I think some access to professional mental health resources and guidance is very important, so that like everybody could feel welcomed. And I think it would be one of the things that could foster a more supportive culture, and welcome the mental well-being of the employees.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And so I have another question for Priscilla. So what coping mechanisms or strategies would you recommend for individuals in high stress roles to maintain their mental well-being? Are there specific practices that have proven effective from your experience?
I think, and Ishan mentioned this before, maintaining boundaries is really important. If we are working, let's just average it out. I know most people work an 8-hour day, but sometimes we can find that being a 10, 12, 14-hour day. And so how frequently are we doing that? How are we actually managing those boundaries and the time constraints? And so I think it is really important, especially in those senior roles, that we do look at the boundaries between our personal time and our time at work. I think we can also overcomplicate things too, like taking regular breaks, having, time to have your lunch, not eating your lunch at your desk, delegating, allowing the growth and expansion of others. I think sometimes that we can really, throw those things out when all those deadlines and pressures come in, yet they do over time have an effect on our mental health and well-being. So more that we can connect with others and pursue things that rejuvenate us, the more we're able to come back into those pressured environments. And it really does stem right from the top, from maintaining boundaries to be able to keep that balance moving.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maintaining boundaries actually helped me, not only men. So we have to take regular breaks, otherwise, like, we start feeling burnt out. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. So for Ishan, again, you mentioned about balancing work and personal life can be challenging in the tech industry. So how do you manage this balance, and what advice would you offer to others in similar roles?
So yeah, I think I have been one of the people who used to take a lot of stress about work, and yeah, so there has been few times where I was not able to maintain my work-life balance. But I think now I've started to prioritize my tasks and ensure that I log off, because work from home has been sort of removed or I would say has cleared the boundary between where the work should end and where the personal life should start. So I think I have started to diligently log off at a reasonable hour, so that I can spend more time with my family and engage in more like personal activities. But I think this should be treated as you're not taking time for yourself, and it's not just beneficial for you, because I think it's necessary so that for long-term creativity and sustained productivity. And I have started using a digital calendar to schedule both my work and personal activities, so then I don't like overlook any family time or personal time. So I think it's very important to set clear boundaries with your work and personal life, because I think constantly being in the on mode can cause stress and eventual burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, maintaining a digital calendar is actually a good idea. Like, I've also been doing the same thing. And yeah, thank you for raising those points. So the next question is for Priscilla. What insights or guidance do you provide to individuals navigating the demands of a tech career while maintaining a healthy work-life integration?
Sorry, can you repeat that one? What insights do I?
What insights or guidance do you provide to individuals navigating the demands of a tech career while maintaining a healthy work-life integration, which is like similar to what we've been discussing, but yeah, focusing more on the work-life integration?
Yeah, I think that utilising the supports such as employee assistance programs, whether you've got counsellors or workplace coaches, so that you're not going it alone. You've actually got someone that you can help yourself be accountable to. I think when we're putting in these boundaries and trying to do the work-life balance, actually having someone that we check in with and doing that in a safe space, that will also help, I guess, promote the conversation. And it might mean that some men in tech and those in leadership positions might be vulnerable enough to actually say, I'm speaking with a counsellor or a coach, and let others know how it's actually working for them. So hold yourself accountable by working with someone that's a professional in that space.
Yeah, these programs actually really help because I remember going to the toilet once, and there was this board of employee assistance program, and then I just gave a call to that, and then I ended up meeting a great counselor, which we are having today. And we started building the relationship. And when I started speaking about it at my company, it actually encouraged other people as well. And how I was encouraged was I actually attended a program where the leader someone from the leadership was sharing their own insight, like Ishan shared, when people start talking about it more, start normalizing it, it becomes a common practice, and people start taking those initiatives for themselves. And it's only about normalizing it in the regular conversation. So that's a really good point. So again, I have another question for you, Priscilla. How can organizations better support the mental health of their employees, particularly focusing on men in tech leadership positions?
Look, I think that there's a bit of a classic thing here. You know, someone comes into the organisation with a broken arm, we're going to make all these reasonable adjustments for them because we can see what's going on. But when someone is struggling, you know, maybe they're coming into work a little bit later, or they haven't got their camera on video when they're in work from home, we need to kind of see that a bit like the broken arm and ask the question, what's going on? And so I think that the more organisations promote mental health and well-being, the better, but equally bringing those conversations in and just noticing changes in people and saying, hey, is something happening for you? Do you need some support? Which is part of normalizing the conversation, bringing that whole person to work and being supportive of the situation when we need to, and making reasonable adjustments wherever possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like we have all sorts of things available if you've got a broken arm or a headache, but we don't have anything available if you've got, some mental issue like depression, or you're facing anxiety. People actually don't understand about these terms because they don't want to speak about these terms. So that's a really good point. And Ishan, would you like to share anything in this area? Like, how can organizations better support the mental health of their employees?
Yeah, I think as Priscilla mentioned, that seeking help when needed is one of the important points. And I think especially in tech companies should try to establish a mentorship kind of a program where some experienced professionals can guide the younger employees, especially in managing stress and the work pressures. And luckily, in my current organization, we have regular mental health workshops, and we also have anonymous counseling services so that we can share our work stress, and those things are strictly confidential, so none of the conversation is shared with the company. So I think these practices are very important when we are talking about mental health these days. Is kind of accepted norm now, and as Priscilla mentioned, that leaders should come forward and share their own experiences with stress management in similar roles, because it will make it more relatable for the younger employees who would be filling their shoes in future. So I think these initiatives should be encouraged to address these issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Priscilla, you mentioned about like people don't discuss about those things. So would you recommend any policies to the companies that aim to create a mentally healthy workplace?
It's a good question, actually, because it's very timely. Just in the last couple of months, in September, actually, there's been some regulations passed that companies have to, as part of their work care and work cover, have a policy around mental health and wellbeing in the organisation now. So I think that's above and beyond the gender part of it. And that regulation change has come about because of the Mental Health Commission, the Royal Commission that's been in place. So a lot of organisations will be putting this into policy and procedure. I think it'll be fantastic, though, that we actually have this as just being part of an organisation, that we don't have to have it regulated. Some organisations, like the one that Ishan works for, are very forward-thinking. They're very progressive. It's becoming part of the culture in the organisation. But there's a lot of industries where we need to catch that up. And of course, tech is pretty much in any industry these days. Anywhere you go, whether in the building industry or, driving buses, you've got some sort of technology you're working in for that. And so some of those more different industry groups probably could take a lead from some of the more tech-oriented companies as well. But yeah, organisations do need to be mindful that it is now regulated as well. And so they probably should check those regulations out for policy changes.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, like, I did not know about it. So thank you for sharing it. And that's the thing. Like these are the things that people don't really go and read about explicitly. So if organizations put those policies in place, people like me or like Ishan, we can actually go and look up to those policies and start, gaining the benefit out of it. So that's a really good point. So Ishan, in your experience, how can individuals in tech roles build resilience to navigate challenges and setbacks without compromising their mental health?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's very important, but I believe that developing a very strong support network, both within and outside the workspace, is extremely important, and that has helped me a lot. And I have also found that embracing failures as a learning opportunity and rather than the setback is quite important, because with every failure we learn something. It increases something in our learning curve. For example, like a few years back, we were working on a big project, and we missed a major release date, and my team received a very average, I would say, not good review from the client, and we got disheartened, but we analyzed our mistakes and we used our insights and experience over the project which we have learned, and we implemented that into our future work pattern, and we delivered the final release well before time, and we got excellent feedback from the same client. So I think getting proper and regular feedback, both internally as well as from the clients, especially in like tech companies, which helps you in continuous improvement and gets you about your status, where you're working, what are the areas you need to focus on. I think yeah, organizations should try to build this kind of a feedback loop, where the employees know their worth, they feel valued and understood, because when you know exactly what you are doing wrong or where you need to focus and improve more, I think that brings more transparency, and it's very good for the organizations as well as the employees as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So again, for Priscilla, I'm just conscious of the time. What strategies can professionals adopt to build and maintain mental resilience in high pressure environments like the tech industry?
Look, I think it comes down a lot to your mindset and making sure that you've got a real growth mindset, knowing that nothing is actually fixed in place. And so allowing yourself to have time for reflection, to be able to process, any changes that you might need to make, a bit like the sunset review that you did there, Ishan, and then implementing change. There's no set way to do things. So the more that we can be open towards changes, being curious about different ways of doing things, about situations with people being, quite unique, and then moving through and making changes where necessary. So wherever we can be flexible and adaptable, is going to be able to work through these high pressure environments, because let's face it, they're not going to go away. So we need to work with them. And it's the processes that are actually going to help us do that, not necessarily the outcomes all the time. So
Yep. So that's a really good advice. Yeah, so coming down to our last question for both of you, if you could offer one piece of advice to the tech community on prioritizing and improving men's mental health, what would it be? Ishan, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Yes, like we have shared some very good points in our conversation, but I think creating more atmosphere of openness, where discussing mental health is as normal as discussing like physical health. So I think we are almost there, in like at least in my organization, because we are trying to prioritize mental health, and we should try to instill this idea that mental health is as important as professional achievements, and men should be encouraged to speak openly about their struggles, because they fear that they might be judged, and they should try to take mental breaks, because they fear that if I take a break in terms that I'm feeling stressed in work or something, then that might lead to a repercussion, maybe professionally. But I think organizations should try to invest. They are investing in training managers. We, as a manager in my organization, we receive regular trainings to recognize signs of mental distress in our team and how to approach these situations with more empathy and discretion. So yeah, I think initiatives like these could have a significant impact on the overall mental being of not just men, but everyone working in the team in the workforce.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing. Priscilla, would you like to share a piece of advice?
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree in normalizing and opening up the conversation. I think further towards that, though, is actually helping with the education around how to have the conversation. You know, we have things like Are You OK Week, but people aren't always comfortable about asking how you are. So actually increasing the training so that people will have the open, vulnerable conversation and know that they will have the support in the organisation. It's all well and good to have the conversation, but what do you do with it once you've done that and you find that you do need to connect to supports? So increasing that training would also be beneficial as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Now we have only 3 minutes left, so I would just like to ask the audience if you have any question. You can drop a note or you can unmute yourself and ask questions to Ishan or Priscilla or both of them. Please go ahead. If not, I have one question that was asked before, like at the time of registration. One person asked this, that they wanted to know. So they are a men in tech, and they wanted to know how they can say no in a difficult situation, because when most of the times it comes down to saying no. So would anyone of you like to answer this, or both of you?
Yeah, I'm happy to go with that one because that's part of being assertive, the ability to say no and not have the guilt trip that can go with it sometimes. Because ultimately, when we're talking about boundaries, more often or not, it's actually saying, no, I can't do that tonight. So I would strongly encourage, if you're having trouble saying no, utilize a coach or a counsellor. Like, use one of your EAP sessions if you've got them through your employer, or book a session in with a counsellor and actually do that practice, because it'll be coming probably through some childhood things and some family, situations about saying no, especially if it is to a manager or a supervisor as well. But how can we do that, which means that it doesn't have the detriment to your career? So it's skill building.
Yeah, that's a really good way to deal with it, because I also learned being assertive in that way. EAP sessions are really helpful. So I always encourage everyone to go and utilize that free benefit that your organization is providing you. Again, so Ishan, would you like to share or add anything to that question?
Yeah, I think Priscilla explained everything quite nicely. But yeah, it's like it has been a problem with me as well. Like, saying no has given me a few nightmares. But I think it's very important to maintain our work-life balance, especially the workload. And it's about setting healthy boundaries. So what I try to do is do it politely and effectively, so that you also maintain positive relationships and a good reputation at work. So in my trainings in the last few days, I had learned this technique of the sandwich method, where you start with a positive statement, then you you decline in the middle, and then end with a positive note. So this strategy is working good for me, because otherwise, like, honestly, you don't want, if you have like on your full capacity and you don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. So I think you could try to avoid over justifying if you are declined, and try to practice a little bit of empathy and stay consistent, so that you don't appear as rude, but yeah, you don't want to overcommit all the time. So saying no is very important part of our work lives as well.
Yeah. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Julia. That's a fantastic advice. So, and with that, our session is almost to an end. If there is anything that you would like to share and like a few words to the audience, or we'll just say bye-bye until we meet again. So yeah, it's up to you, Priscilla, Ishan, if you want to share anything else.
Probably just for a matter of time, but thank you for organising this, Inshu. It's been great, and I think that, you know, keeping up the conversation, whether it be Movember or December or January, November, I think, you know, this is a conversation for every day, not just for a given month.
Yeah, that's a lovely piece of advice. So we should keep the conversation going, and not only about men's mental health, but everyone's mental health. It should be spoken more often and discussed in a normalized way to actually make the difference happen. Yeah, so with that, thank you, Priscilla and Ishan, for joining, and thank you for the lovely audience for joining us today. I see there were so many people who were not able to join because of the internet connection and everything, but still they did. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. You will have the recording posted on our YouTube channel. So if you've missed anything, you can always go back to the YouTube recording of this session, and we'll be posting more about this, what conversation was made. We'll be drafting the blog post and everything. So everything will be there, even if you were not able to attend this part of the session or the entire session, it will be available online. So thank you for joining us. Until we meet again, thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Ishan.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Bye.
Bye.